Hello, everybody. My name is Daniel Ferak. I'm Business Unit Director of Digital Onboarding Toolkit Business Unit at Innovatrics. In today's presentation, I'll explain the reasons why I believe it is important to choose the right partner when implementing biometrics. We'll have a look at the current identity industry landscape, go over some important questions you should ask when choosing a biometric vendor, explain different options, how to understand performance of biometrics algorithms, and at the end show the example of an early adopter of biometric technology. So let's start with the industry landscape. For many years, the identity verification market was quite stable. Looks something like this. It was made up of technology providers with strong R&D focus, which were competing with each other to develop the fastest and most accurate algorithms possible. Then there were system integrators partnering with these tech providers and delivering the end solutions for the customers. But recently, the landscape has changed dramatically. There has been a strong influx of digital onboarding solution providers entering the market. Most of them use the third-party algorithms, so they do not develop their own ones. And these startups are usually well-funded. When I say well-funded, I really mean it. In 2021, it was there have been investments worth more than $4 billion. So it's now starting to be quite hard for the end customers to get oriented in this number of different vendors. Mainly if they have really a lot of resources for marketing. In order to understand the solution you are buying, you should search for the answers to the following questions. And that's basically the main message of this presentation. We will go over the different aspects of these questions and try to give you some perspective on it. So let's start with the core technology benchmarks and performance of the core technology. I don't want to bother you with too much detail, so I will try to be as quick as possible here. There are three main components of the remote identity verification algorithms. First, it's the document verification, ID document verification component. Second, face verification component. And third, but not definitely not least, is the liveness detection. So, unfortunately, there is no independent benchmark for the ID verification, for ID document verification component. So that's why it's really important to carry out own internal tests. And we will get to that in more detail later. For face verification, fortunately, there is a very good standard. NIST FRET, National Institute of Standardized Technologies, facial recognition vendor test. That's a serious benchmark where you can compare different vendors of face recognition algorithms. They provide different type of benchmarks, one-to-one, one-to-one, and recently also the demographic effects of biometrics, which is very important as well. In terms of liveness detection, there is an ISO standard, which establishes principles and methods for performance assessment. of presentation attack detection, and there are independent labs that are doing a conformance testing with this standard. One of them is, for example, IBETA, and the NIST itself is also preparing some benchmark that will be coming soon, already at the end of this year. So let's start with the ID document verification. I think really important here is the accuracy and speed, the OCR algorithms. What is important is also the user experience of client components. So how easy is to capture the ID document for the user? Are the new versions of supported documents added to the solutions without problems? Do you need to support more advanced techniques like reading the NFC data from the NFC chip or from a machine readable zone, compare these data, or barcodes? So these are very important questions you need to ask, and unfortunately you only can do your own accuracy test. As I mentioned, there is no independent benchmark in this area. With regards to NIST, each biometric or the face recognition verification test, really each biometric algorithm is accurate only to some extent. The most important is to understand what level of security is requested. The level of security is basically the false match rate you want to tolerate, and accordingly, what is the false non-match rate at this threshold? That is basically determining the user experience of the solution. So the NIST report is really huge, but the most important thing here is this table. NIST sets the expected security level quite strict. So you only accept one false match in 100K verifications. And then in the cells, you can actually see the relevant false non-match rate for a particular vendor and use case. So you have the vendors in the rows, and in columns you have different use cases. But what you really need to compare is the number in the cell. The lower the number is, the more accurate the algorithm is. Algorithm biases. So how accurately do face recognition software tools identify people of varied sex, age, and racial background? It's very important. I'm sure you do not want biased algorithms inside your solution. Again, fortunately, NIST have the report that is comparing the algorithms submitted into the face recognition vendor test. The results are quite interesting. So the majority of face recognition algorithms really exhibit demographic differentials. The good news here is that those that are ranked among the most accurate are usually also the most equitable. That's because NIST uses data sets that are really good balanced, and if the algorithm is behaving good on these data sets, it also means that it's much less biased than the other one. Regarding the liveness detection, I already mentioned there are different labs doing the testing. Well known is IBETA lab that is currently providing the test in 2 different levels according to ISO standard. these levels basically differ in number of hours dedicated for testing and complexity of the artifacts used when trying to spoof the algorithm, the liveness detection algorithm. So obviously you are looking for the level 2, as that's much more effort required to spoof the algorithm than the level 1. Okay, now let's move on and have a look at the case of the early adopter of the biometrics technology. We will be discussing the Home Credit company. Home Credit is a really huge provider of consumer finance. It's operating in more than 9 countries across Europe and Asia. Approximately 150 million of customers worldwide. So really big company. They approached us with a challenge. It was back in 2018. So long before COVID pandemic, with the following challenges. They basically wanted to securely onboard and verify 20 million customers annually via digital channels. And they were expecting, of course, frictionless user experience with less than 5% abandonment rate. So that were the main KPIs that were set by the customer. And that's how we actually also approached the final solution. So from the user perspective, the solution needed to be really simple. So really several steps when doing the onboarding to really get the best possible or the lowest possible abandonment rate. Of course, what might look simple from the user perspective might not be that simple from the implementation point of view. So the solution really need to be secure. There is multiple different things that needs to be happening on the background, which the user doesn't even notice. Starting with capturing of the ID card and selfie, extracting the data from the ID document, matching the face with the selfie with the document, evaluating the liveness check, doing some third-party checks and one-to-one watch list checks in the background, and then the user only can get the result whether the onboarding was successful or not. So that was the KPI that we were heading for, but you can see that when we ran the first pilot back in 2019, the first results were far away from expected KPIs. This is real database on the manual review of every single onboarding during the pilot phase. And you can see only about 30% of onboarding completed successfully. There were quite a lot of problems with the ID selfie matching, as there was poor quality of the images. Also, quite many people could not end with the active liveness process. And there were actually also some integration issues that were preventing users to onboard successfully. So how we actually approach these issues? So issue number 1, the users really take strange images of their identity documents. And if you leave to take arbitrary pictures, they will really do that. And you can see these are really just a few examples of what we observed when we were looking into data. Same with the faces. So how we actually approach this issue? The resolution here is we don't let the user to take the image. but we need to do it instead of the users. So that means auto capture components where you only point the camera to either the document or your selfie or your face, and you get the perfect image straight away without even pushing the button for taking the picture. So, as I said, both with document and with face, it's really important that this thing was introduced in the solution. The issue number 2 was the liveness. So our liveness at that time was the so-called active liveness. And the user was challenged to follow the dot on the screen. So the user had to move in certain directions on the screen, and we then evaluated whether the user was real and alive, or it was just a video stream or just some printout or mask. Unfortunately, it was really quite a challenge for many users. So they were not really sure what they need to follow. Of course, there have been different aspects how to solve that. And we introduced the fully passive liveness detection. So that's something that the user doesn't even notice. The passive liveness means that the user doesn't need to do any kind of challenge, and the liveness is evaluated by AI at the background of the selfie capture process. Still, there might be some cases when the active approach is important, so that's why we introduce so-called smile liveness, which takes 2 frames instead of 1, and the user is requested to smile. Again, this is very user, in terms of user experience, this is really good because basically everyone can smile. There is no hard challenges following dot with your eyes, and our algorithms can detect this kind of behavior and then compare the 2 images and also evaluate the passive liveness on both frames. The third issue, the integration issues. The integration is never as easy as vendor claim. There are different components that need to be put together. So what was the resolution here? Yeah, order pizza, get on a plane. So we really flew to our customer. There was a really intensive 1-week collaboration, and the results then came out from it. They were really happy that we provided them with this kind of support. So what is the current status? These are the data from 2021, and as you can see, the 95% of onboardings were completed successfully. About 5% is usually due to organic abandonment of the process. So it was a really huge success, but even after all that, I think the iterations are the key. So there is a really long-term good partnership with these customers. If they experience any kind of problems that might be due to new version of documents, ID documents, or new setup of their systems, we are always here and able to help them because we understand the core technology, we understand what we are doing and what we can do in order to improve the accuracy and whatever problem they might have. Also, fraudsters do not sleep, so it's really important for the good partner to keep up with the fraudsters, to keep up with the new threat vectors, and to constantly update the algorithms in order to be still as secure as requested from the customer. So the results, Home Credit is really satisfied. They onboard 30,000 clients daily via digital, so I think it's a huge success. And they even have their ad that this process really only takes 1 minute, and that's thanks to the biometrics that is running in the background and all the technology that I was talking about. Okay, to conclude the presentation, we prepared a simple checklist with important questions into your RFP when evaluating potential biometric vendors. I think that's something that needs to be really asked, and that's basically the questions that we were asking at the beginning of the presentation. So is it accurate and fast? Is it fair? Does it balance security and user experience? Can it support all my use cases? This is pretty much it. So the real conclusion, I really believe selecting a right partner is crucial. Cheaper transaction cost does not necessarily mean lower total cost of ownership. And please do not just believe bold marketing claims, but try to get the answers to all the questions, measure everything to double check that that the software will meet your requirements. Thank you very much for your attention.